great delight to be here with you today. So first of all, for everyone who's watching, would you just introduce yourself, your business, and what it is that you do?
Thank you, Corinne. I'm so glad I'm your first person on this Standout Effect project. So my name is Yu Dan, and I run a career and executive coaching and mentoring business. Essentially, I help corporate high achievers to find a career and life that they will enjoy more. And I coach, mentor, and also write about topics that would help them achieve that.
Awesome, thank you. Now, you've been busy the last few months. You've been working on a very special project. Would you be willing to just reveal a bit of what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. So last year when I was very busy running workshops and seminars, as you know, on my business, I had this idea. My clients kept telling me that you should write a book, and so that more people will get to know about what you have been sharing with us. So really, that's it's about capturing the ideas I have had over the years. I've been on this journey for almost 10 years now. Starting out as overly exhausted, high-flying corporate executive. And then gradually moving towards a career and a life I'm so much enjoying today. So I decided rather than wait any longer, I'll just start putting ideas together in the book. So the book's name is called Come Alive.
Wow.
Essentially is about, a little bit about my own journey, but also about what I have seen from the people in corporates, that after a number of years, people start to get a bit tired, a bit jaded. So what are the simple, things and strategies you can put into place so you can enjoy this life and career again? And that's really what I've been working on in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so excited and I can't wait to read it. I've been to one of your workshops and I know working with you is amazing. And I know also, we talk about the brands, you talked about what makes a leader stand out. And certainly, LinkedIn is the place that a lot of leaders are today, and they're trying to position themselves and to get known for what they do. Is there any particular person or brand, or even if you talk in general terms, people that you see doing it well, what are they doing?
I think like many things, LinkedIn is certainly one of the platforms, especially for business, corporate, wants to leverage. But I think like all things that if you want to bring your brand and a story into life, the things I see work really well is when people are being real. So when people are being very authentic about what they think, what they write about, whether it's about their own story, about something they observe, they try not to. I have this term I've been using that, being likable is different being your clients like you. Because sometimes a person can be very popular, maybe everyone likes them. It doesn't mean that makes a great brand. In that place, because what you need is just really your type of clients like you enough and respect you enough. You don't have to be there for everybody. And I think that's what I see with these brands, that when people are being so real, and they might have a little bit even controversial, but they know that they can stand by their own ideas, their own stories. They know they will find their own tribe to like them, but they don't have to please everybody. So that's what I have seen is really, really working. And I'm kind of trying to, be myself as well, rather than worry about would the people like my message? Do I like my message? Because if I like it enough, then my type of people will find you.
I love what you're saying there. And at the same time, it's so easy and yet it's so hard. And I run into entrepreneurs or business owners, leaders, and one of the number one things people say is, if I put it out there, people will think I'm an idiot. I'm so afraid of what people will think of me. Have you experienced that, and what was that like for you?
Oh, totally. The very first blog I wrote was about my journey 10 years ago. It was a brief blog describing, what happened when I felt like quitting corporate 10 years ago, and I was at the time a C-level executive. So looked very successful. I had worked very hard to get there, and then I wanted to quit. And then what did I do in the next year to turn myself life around? Now that happened 10 years ago, and I never told anybody publicly, right? So you know, your friends, your family, only closed one would know that. So then 10 years later, you wanted to share that story because I wanted people to know it's okay to feel that way. And because I know that when things like that happen, at the time you feel very alone and you feel this is unusual. You know, if I have a good job, I have a good pay, I have a good family, I should be happy. Now, but I'm not happy. Not only that, I want to quit everything. And that sounds stupid and ungrateful. So you will be beating yourself up. So me writing a story is I want to show people that it's okay and it's normal. So I was excited when I was writing it, but before I pressed the publish button, I almost vomited. I was feeling so sick and nauseous. I remember I was ringing a friend and said, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, this is silly, you know. And I remember that process took me 3 hours alone, just between send and publish, and then unpublish and publish and unpublish. But eventually I decided it was a good thing to do because I want people to feel that's completely okay and there's a way to turn it around. You know, that's what I want people to hear. But even after I published it, the following 24 hours was agonizing still. You know, it's like, who do you think you are? Why would you want to write about your story? You know, you know, so yes, you have all of these things. But I woke up next day and I was overwhelmed with the messages. People were sharing on LinkedIn. I had people writing to me from Europe. I mean, I'm based in Sydney, Australia, right? Writing from Europe, from America, from Canada, from China, from Singapore, all over the place were writing, telling me my message resonated. And it helped them to feel there's a way forward. So at that moment, I felt like being truthful actually was a good thing because I didn't. You know, because my draft was actually a bit logical at the beginning, but then I decided to be very truthful, and I think that ended up being a good thing of being more real. That's how I got. That's my first blog experience.
That's so cool. So let's pull that apart because I love looking at how do you make things replicable for other people. So, you know, what were the confidence killers was like doubt, fear, worry.
What if no one likes it?
Yeah, what if no one likes it?
No one likes it,
And then you had and that happens before and after. So let's really zone into what was it that overcame that for you. So you said there's a couple of things you started talking about. Let's be crystal clear. What was it and how would you help someone else through that process?
I think the biggest thing for me, how I overcame it, was I really believed in my message. So what stopped me was the little voice we all have is what about, how do people think about that? What about other people? So whenever we think about what others think of you, that's what stops us. But if we can just check with our own heart, I always like to check with my own intuition, going, you know, do you believe in it? Do you believe in this message? And will you read it? Will you read it yourself? So if the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter. Even if no one liked it, I still believe in it. So I think that's a big thing, and I learned that over and over because even the second, third, fourth, fifth, you still get nervous. But then every time I ask myself, because at the end of the day, we have to do this for our own thing rather than letting other people, you know, the truth is, even if no one liked it, you still have created a content you are proud of. Would you rather that, or you provide something that everyone likes it, but you're not proud of the content because you know for some reason you weren't 100% in tune with your real message. You just did it because the other people likes it. I think in the long run, it's a more sustainable way if you always in tune with yourself rather than trying to please everyone else. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love
Thank
you. So let's talk about pulling that apart. The idea, we talk about authenticity, and authenticity can mean in this day of social media, like, oh, look at us, we're taking a photo, and you know, we've got lights and a few other things here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you interpret the difference between authenticity and being real.
That's a good question. To me, I like using the word being real.
Yes.
I think being real means it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think being real also means much more spontaneous.
Yes.
Now, I know that to me, one of the things that has helped is that whenever you have these ideas, you know, with stories or whatever, you actually capture it in the real time. And by doing that, rather than going, I tried this before and didn't quite work with me, is rather than going, oh, now I'm going to sit down, write a blog, or now I'm going to sit down to do this thing, you know, for my market. I find that process is much harder than if I'm going to constantly capture my idea, and then you allocate a time, is actually looking at ideas and thoughts you have had over, let's say, last 24 hours or last 2 days. Now you edit and rewrite it from that angle is much more easier for you to do, because you can only have like 5 minutes driving around and you have an idea and you can capture it and then you can revisit the time. So I think to me that process alone is how I view it's being real. And that also means the content that you're going to create, you are not strategically always planned it. It's a reflection of your own maturity and growth as well, because every day we are growing, right? So if you plan ahead so much about everything you're going to say, actually your thoughts is dated, because surely you would have grown a month from today.
I love that. Yes.
So to me, rather than being hard on myself saying, well, I didn't plan well enough, I always go, well, but I think I learned something compared to before, so maybe the things I'm going to offer today is good, you know, is at least more mature, or maybe I've learned something over the time. So I think it's this balance of always, I guess, acknowledging yourself is growing and you're willing to share whatever learning with others in the real time, is how I define being real.
Yes, I love that. And it also, so there's a couple of things there. So you play into, first of all, it's the being in a real state with yourself, being genuine with who you are and what you have to share. And then I love that what you added was a process. And that process is about allowing it to happen in time. I just read Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Crushing It, which I love. And he talks about
passionate guy.
about being the star and also the producer, so that your story, what you're learning, is as much a part of the story as the message. And I think I've really seen that as a really vital way that leaders and brands can stand out. So I think what this comes into is that part of the story, so storytelling. And you said there you had written something out logically and then you pivoted it to be about your story. What is the role of stories in your communication and how important is it to you?
And it's very important to me, and I think it's very important to almost everybody who wants to share a message. Sometimes I see business owners, they separate themselves from their product and services, right? They will say, well, that's me and that's my products. And the thing is that, but at the end of the day, everybody can use your product services, including yourself. So to me, story is really just about, you know, how it's not about every detailed journey of yourself. So that become to me a bit selfie syndrome. So every single detail would be selfie syndrome. But this is more about, for instance, you know, if you have a product, for instance, even is how do you use your product in the day-to-day? So if you created this microphone, well, what did you do with it today? You know, did you interview a client yourself? I mean, to me, that's a story, and that also shows the product feature. So same with my services, because I'm a mentor and coach and working with people on their life, career, and psychology and human behavior. So naturally, my message is about my own psychology.
Yeah.
It's about what is happening within me,
Yes.
my behavior, and what's my relationship between myself with my career, my relationship between myself and life, and how do I interpret all of that in a meaningful way. So to me, if I just talk about theory, okay, to create something meaningful, you need to do this, which is a theory. People find very difficult to relate it because you can get that from a textbook. But if you go, here's what I read, here's what I learned, and so happened, you know what, I just experienced that this morning.
Yeah.
I just experienced this morning, this has happened, and it helped me this deep understanding how this is. Now people go, I can understand what you talked about around the theory. So I think story really brings our thoughts into life and make people feel, again, this is normal, this is relatable. If you can use it, I can use it. If you understand it, I can understand it. So it's about bringing that relationship really close and for other people to digest the information much, much quicker. So I absolutely love story. Story has to be the center point of everything, and the messages supports the stories. Yeah.
And I love, I completely agree with that. And I think that what I'm seeing in the big brands or the leaders who are standing out in this digital space today, it's not enough just to have a pretty picture. It's not enough to have a one-off great video. It is about that narrative almost through time as well.
Yeah.
And creating that story that people, as you say, can hook into, that's relatable, and can do that over time. Now, your background is, as you said, you've paved the corporate pavement, pounded the corporate pavement.
Corporate warrior.
Yeah, corporate warrior from the
Corporate
marketing
warrior.
side.
Yes.
So intuitively, not intuitively, it's by learning, you
Yes.
have a lot of experience and knowledge.
Yes.
So one part of it is the story. Is there any tips that you can add about, the process? Maybe there's a timing, maybe there was something you said, maybe there was, because when I looked at your LinkedIn, it was, you'd write a short form post and then you'd have an image or you'd have other things. Like, it was almost like, was there a strategy? I guess that's my question. And whether it was subconscious or conscious, and what could you share on that to help people?
Definitely. So obviously in the last couple of months I have been a bit quiet because I'm trying to really focus on writing the book.
Yes.
But before that I was very active, like you said. I think I do have some ideas. I wouldn't call them define a strategy because you really should experiment all the time.
Yeah.
And even if you like someone's strategy, your job is to test it and never make that as your only way of doing it. So I had some guiding principle helps me to experiment all the time. So the first principle is around the message I want to communicate. So what kind of messages? So I tend to focus on things like the human behavior, the psychology, satisfying career and life. So I have some core ideas I like to play around, which is what's relevant to my business.
Yes.
And the next one is I really like I believe in loyalty. So I believe that I'm kind of person a bit more focusing on the depths rather than the broad reach. So I believe that if you provide people really deep, rich information, rich content, rather than going. So as an example, I was very focused mainly just on LinkedIn for a period of time, rather than doing LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube all at the same time.
Yeah.
And once I was able to find my anchor on LinkedIn, I started bring Facebook in.
Yeah.
So then I started become very focused on these two platforms. I'm still not on Instagram, and this, and I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah.
In fact, I read this blog written by Seth Godin. I mean, anyone's into marketing or social media, you perhaps know Seth. He has written 18 bestseller books on marketing, influence, and tribe. And what he talks about is that be focused, and do what you are really, really naturally great at. So he is on very limited social media, and he writes his blog in his own way. So he writes a blog a day, sometimes just 50 words, sometimes might be 2,000 words, but that's his own way. So be very focused on one channel. Once you have mastered, you bring another channel in. So I kind of trying to follow that in a way. So I would say focus on the idea and then focusing on building the loyalty and your own depth knowledge on a particular platform, and then you bring other things in. It's just my guiding principle.
Yeah.
Then everything else is just play.
Yes. I think if there was nothing else that you took from this conversation, I think that is gold. Not to use, because we all look at others, because there's so many things we're trying to compare or we're trying to learn, but to use it as a guiding principle and experiment. Wow, that's gold. That's absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for being willing to be my first interview.
Thank
Now,
you.
I'm sure people fell head over heels in love with you. How would they find out more about you or connect with you to know more of what you're doing?
Oh, thank you, Kieran. So go to my website, www.yudanshi, basically my full name.com, and then from there you get to see and connect with me, or through LinkedIn and Facebook, my two primary channels.
Yes.
Yes. Or just
Awesome.
Google it, you will find it. Thanks, Kieran,
Any
for having
parting
me.
thoughts? Any parting thoughts?
I've been pretty big on experimenting and being playful lately. So even with all my conversations with my clients, I do talk about the only way to turn your idea into reality or make any significant change in your life and career is to have the playful mindset and also to really focus on its experiment.
Yes.
Because if you do that, less attachment, no fear of failure, and there's only learning, and you will find you're actually looking forward to that every day, because if you can reframe everything you do as a playful and experiment rather than so seriously, now I have to blog, now I have to post a story, I think the formal way is much easier and lighthearted, and perhaps your readers, your markets, when they see these messages, they can feel that sense of lightness as well. Thank you, Kieran, for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's it from us. I hope you've enjoyed today. We'll see you next time. Bye. Hooray.
Hooray, we made it. We're
That
such
was
a good
awesome.
partner.
Yes. That was awesome.
You're so natural.
Oh, thanks. That was a great conversation, I thought.